Welcome to your deep dive. We're diving into something I know you're really interested in, the future of higher education.
Yeah.
And we're not just talking about like where to apply.
Right.
It's bigger than that. It's about what success even means, in a world that's changing faster than a college student changes their major.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You sent over Alex Garrido's LinkedIn article, The Future of Higher Education Rankings, Measuring What Matters Most, along with some really interesting data visualizations.
Yeah.
So let's unpack it all.
Okay.
Are we like on the verge of a total rethink of how we value colleges and universities?
It's a good question.
And what does that mean for you?
Yeah, I think it's definitely time to start questioning those old ways of thinking about college rankings. For decades, the focus has been on prestige. You think Ivy League schools, high selectivity, wealthy alumni, all that.
Yeah.
But those metrics don't really tell the whole story about a school's value.
Right. And that's where this Economic Mobility Index, or EMI, comes in, right?
Exactly.
It's not about who gets in, but how these institutions actually help students climb the economic ladder.
Exactly. The EMI is looking at factors like the number of Pell Grant recipients a school has.
Okay.
And a large percentage of Pell Grant recipients usually indicates that a school is serving a primarily low-income student population.
Got it.
They also look at affordability for those students and maybe most importantly, how much their graduates are earning.
So they're trying to identify schools that are really making a difference in the lives of students who might not have, all the advantages.
Exactly, yeah. And when you look at the schools that are topping the EMI, it's not who you might expect. We actually have a bar chart here showing the top 20, and a lot of them are public universities, including California State University, Los Angeles, at the very top.
Wow. That's pretty eye-opening. I mean, we're so conditioned to think like good school equals expensive, exclusive school. Right. But this suggests that incredible things are happening at institutions that don't necessarily have that same name recognition.
Totally. Yeah, and that leads us to one of Alex's key points.
Yeah.
The idea of catapults versus ladders.
Okay, I like this.
Traditional rankings often favor institutions that act as catapults. They launch already privileged students even further ahead. These students often come from families who can afford top-tier schools, test prep, and have networks that can open doors. So they're already on that path to success.
They're already set up. But what about students who don't start out on that path?
Right. That's where the ladder institutions come in. They're focused on providing a way for students to climb to economic opportunity no matter their background.
Okay.
Affordability is key, but they also offer robust support services and programs geared towards careers that lead to good-paying jobs.
So you're saying they're really giving students the tools and the support they need to succeed in the real world. And the University of Texas Rio Grande Valley, or UTRGV, where Alex works, is a prime example of a school that's being recognized for doing just that. They're creating those pathways to success for students who might not have had them otherwise.
Exactly. UTRGV is located in the Rio Grande Valley of Texas, and it's one of the largest Hispanic-serving institutions in the country.
Okay.
A Hispanic-serving institution is a college or university where Hispanic students make up at least 25% of the total enrollment. And UTRGV is doing some incredible things for its student body.
Well, let's hear it. What makes them stand out?
The data shows that a whopping 62% of UTRGV students receive Pell Grants.
Wow.
Meaning they're serving a largely low-income student body.
Okay.
And get this, their net price for students is just under $24,000, which is ridiculously low compared to the national average of almost $60,000.
Oh, wow.
We have a box plot chart that really highlights that difference.
So they're not only making college accessible to students who might not have even considered it before,
Right.
but they're doing it without compromising on quality.
Exactly.
Their graduates are seeing great returns on their investment, recouping the cost of their education in less than 2 years on average.
Yeah, I mean, that's really redefining ROI in higher education.
It is, yeah.
And this isn't just about numbers. Alex talks about how when he walks through the UTRGV campus, he sees stories. He sees first-generation students, dreamers, young parents, all striving to create a better future for themselves and their families.
That's what makes this whole conversation about rankings and value so meaningful. It's not just like beta points on a spreadsheet. It's about real people's lives being transformed.
Yeah. And it's important to remember that all of this is happening in the Rio Grande Valley,
Right.
an area that's historically faced some, really significant economic challenges.
It really flips the script on what we think of as a successful school, doesn't it?
It does.
UTRGV is proving that these regional public universities can be like absolutely vital engines of social and economic mobility.
Yeah, for sure. It challenges that idea that you have to go to an elite, expensive institution to achieve success. There's incredible talent and potential, everywhere. And institutions like UTRGV are tapping into that potential and creating real pathways for upward mobility.
It begs the question, like, what kind of impact could we have on a national scale if there was more focus on supporting and investing in these kinds of institutions that are serving these communities?
Yeah, it's a really important question about resource allocation and funding priorities in higher education. Are we truly putting our money where it matters most, where it can make the biggest difference in people's lives?
Right, right. It feels like we need to move beyond just looking at, like, how prestigious the school is, and
Right.
instead focus on how effectively they are preparing students for success in the real world, whatever that looks like for each individual.
Yeah, and that brings us back to this bigger question of how we even define success in higher ed.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you brought that up, because honestly, the traditional definition, going to a top-ranked school, landing a high-paying job,
Right.
feels incredibly narrow and to be frank, out of reach for so many people. Is that even the most fulfilling or meaningful way to think about success?
Yeah. Alex's article really pushes us to consider a more holistic view. What if we measured success by the impact an institution has on its students and their communities?
And society as a whole.
Exactly. It's about creating a more equitable and just society where everyone has that opportunity to reach their full potential, regardless of background, where they come from.
Speaking of where they come from, we also have this interactive map that shows the geographic distribution of EMI scores across the U.S. Did any patterns jump out at you?
Well, what's striking is the concentration of high EMI scores in certain regions, particularly California and the Northeast, suggesting that these areas have a higher proportion of institutions successfully promoting economic mobility for low-income students.
And a lot of those high-scoring institutions are public universities, which aligns with what we've been discussing.
Right, exactly. It challenges the assumption that private institutions are inherently better at providing a pathway to economic success. Many public universities are doing exceptional work, often with, fewer resources.
It also raises questions about the geographic distribution of opportunity itself. Like, why are some regions seemingly better at promoting economic mobility through education?
That's a really complex question. I mean, there's a lot of potential factors at play. Differences in state funding for education, the availability of well-paying jobs, even cultural attitudes towards higher education could all contribute.
So what does all of this mean for someone like you listening to this deep dive?
Right.
You might be thinking, okay, interesting stuff, but how does it impact M?
Yeah, that's a great question. There are a few key takeaways here. First, it reminds us to be critical of traditional college rankings. Look beyond just prestige when considering your educational options.
Don't just blindly follow the rankings. Dig deeper, look at the data, and think about what matters most to you. Like, what are your goals, your values?
Exactly. What kind of environment helps you thrive? What kind of career are you passionate about? What kind of impact do you want to have on the world? Success can look really different for different people.
Right.
It might mean climbing the corporate ladder, starting your own business, pursuing a creative passion, or even dedicating yourself to community service.
It seems like this is all about finding the right ladder to climb.
Yes.
Not just chasing after the most prestigious catapult.
Exactly. And if you're already out of school, think about how you can support institutions that are making a difference. You could volunteer, mentor students, or even advocate for policies that promote access to quality, affordable education for everyone.
It really highlights how investing in education is ultimately investing in the future of our society. We all have a role to play in creating a more equitable and just world.
Absolutely. This whole deep dive has really made me reconsider what it means for a college or university to be successful. What do you think?
Me too. It's such a powerful reminder that true success is about impact and transformation, not just exclusivity or prestige. It's about empowering students to achieve their dreams and contribute to a more just and equitable society.
And it's about recognizing and celebrating those institutions that are out there, often working quietly and diligently to create those opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. So much of this deep dive has been about reframing what success looks like.
Hmm.
And it makes me wonder what kind of changes we might see if this new way of thinking became more widespread. Like, what would it mean for college selection, funding decisions, public policy?
Well, if the catapults versus ladders framework really gained traction, I think we could see a major shift in how we evaluate and support higher education.
Oh, so.
Well, we might see more emphasis on funding for institutions serving historically underserved communities.
Huh?
There would be a greater focus on affordability and career readiness in program development. And hopefully we'd see a reduction in the weight placed on, those traditional prestige metrics like acceptance rates and alumni giving.
It feels like that would be like a huge win for students who might not have the resources or the connections to get into those highly selective catapult schools.
Oh, for sure. It would create a more level playing field
Mm.
and open up opportunities for a wider range of students to succeed. And ultimately that benefits society as a whole.
Mm.
A more educated workforce with diverse perspectives and skill sets is essential for innovation and economic growth.
This has been such a thought-provoking deep dive. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface of this topic.
There's always more to explore, but I think we've laid a solid foundation for understanding how these new ways of measuring success could impact higher education.
Definitely. And to our listener, thank you so much for sending in this fascinating material.
Yeah.
It sparked a really important conversation, and I hope it's got you thinking about what success means to you
Mhm.
and how you can be a part of shaping the future of higher education.
Could have said it better myself. Keep those deep dives coming. We're always ready to explore with you.
Before we wrap up, Alex Garrido leaves us with this powerful thought. In an age of inequality, we must build systems that uplift the most vulnerable and empower entire communities to thrive.
What a fantastic note to end on. It's a call to action for all of us to consider how we can contribute to creating a more equitable and just world, starting with education.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.